Hi, Misha here, and let's return to the Star Wars galaxy, the Star Wars universe, legends, canon, who knows, we'll see, and talk about Darth Vader himself, looking at 3 examples from the Black Series, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and the reason I waited to do this video, the one from Return of the Jedi, of which, getting this figure, I have a story, so I will tell that when I get to it. And as a little bonus content, we'll also talk about Vader's very own TIE Advanced X1 model. This is from the Hot Wheels Select Collection. Why not diecast model, toy, whatever you prefer. These are of course 6-inch. Very similar, but also shows you the changes in the costume, armor, uniform from the films, partially because of refinements, partially for the actors' comfort, partially, mostly, because of better budget. And we'll ask at the end, what's your favorite iteration of Darth himself? With that, let's jump in and go back to 1977. Let's begin by looking at Vader's tie. This was in many ways really his. Like I said, this is from the Hot Wheels Select Collection, so it's a larger size. Has kind of a pivoting mount, pretty neat, but tight fit too. Maybe, come on. There we go, kind of pops out. But it's not going to fall off on you. And it's all metal, which is neat. It's a good size, it really is. A little bit larger than the old D'Agostini. So this is based on development that began with the TIE V1, which is the first technical TIE Advance from around 3 BBY. Well, I should say the work began on the X1 and 3 BBY. The V1 began around 5 BBY, and it was used by the Inquisitorius. This version, actually Vader had a hand in designing for himself. I took a lot of inspiration from the old ETA-2s, the Jedi Interceptors, as well as, of course, TIE Fighters, the TIE Boarding Craft, TIE Shuttle, TIE Bomber, as you can tell by the wings. And it did sacrifice some maneuverability, but in exchange it gained a whole lot, and most importantly, Vader could actually fit in it. The X1 was about 11 meters long, about 9.5 meters wide, and about 6.25 meters tall. It's actually slightly shorter because of the curved in solar panels compared with the TIE LN. Now, like I said, it was a little slower, but the trade-off, this was one of the very first TIEs to mount a hyperdrive. Now, it was a class 4, so not the fastest in the world, but it could get you somewhere. Better than a backup on a lot of ships. And it contained about 5 days supplies, provisions, air, water, food, so it could go on somewhat long-range missions. It also had quite good speed in atmosphere, about 1200 kph, and quite good inline straight acceleration in space. It was powered by 2 ion engines, and it used a fuel cell for its primary power, mostly for the hyperdrive, but then again, a lot of things like the weapons were powered by the solar panels. The cockpit was not pressurized like other TIEs, and Vader's specific X1 was actually somewhat refitted inside to better suit his frame, his suit, his height, but also his really lack of need for any kind of comfort whatsoever. As far as the weapons, It had two LS 9.3 laser cannon, so slightly upgraded from the TIE LN, but more importantly, it had an improved targeting computer system. Of course, that was paired with an improved navigation system for the hyperdrive. So, a little bit more powerful lasers and more accurate, more precise targeting system. It also was fitted with a micro missile or munitions launcher, so it could fire concussion missiles. And unlike the TIE, it could actually carry a small amount of cargo, about 150 kilograms. No, not much, but, a little bit. So it could act as a short-range carrier of sensitive information if needed. For defense, it had a Durasteel hull with improved armor from the regular TIE. Then again, Tinfoil had improved armor from the regular TIE. And it did have a shield system. Now, the shielding wasn't the strongest, but it could take a few blasts without serious damage. Which is, again, of course, a major improvement on other TIEs, including the TIE Interceptor, TIE Bomber, so on and so forth. So it was all in all a more survivable, more independent craft, although it still operated from Star Destroyers. And obviously, as we saw in A New Hope, the Death Star. So what about its history? As I said, Darth Vader had a hand in developing this at Cinar Systems and 3 BBY, and by 1 BBY he took delivery of his X1. These were always considered an advanced prototype and were always really intended for small batch production only. His would be recovered, about the only thing that was, after the Death Star, and put back into service after some repairs by 0 BBY, but we never see him flying it again. Allegedly, it was on board the Executor during the Battle of Hoth, 3 ABY, and still on board the Executor when it was destroyed by an A-Wing in 4 ABY at the Battle of Endor. It was also, at least according to Legends continuity, there were a few other X1s in a small squadron in service at Endor, but of course they weren't seen in the film itself, Return of the Jedi. But Legends are canon, yeah, they didn't build many of these. But Vader was not the only user, and he did have a couple of spares, and especially in the old Legends continuity, these would pop up from time to time. But really what this would lead to was the development of the TIE Interceptor and other improved versions like the TIE Defender. It was a stepping stone, an idea of a more powerful, a space superiority TIE fighter, one not just made to be disposable, but actually to give to skilled pilots. And again, Vader's X1 was really tailored to his unique skills and also unique limitations. And with that, let's go back to Episode 4, A New Hope. And here we have that figure. And if there's any fingerprints on the glossy helmet, that's actually accurate to the film because, yeah, the helmet was kind of hand cast for the 1977 film. Really, the armor was pretty well handmade. And at that time, Darth Vader was not really meant to be the lead villain in the series as such, although he was important. He started off as a general, and in fact the whole suit thing originally began as a spacesuit. I'm sure you know that. But then it evolved into something he needed to exist. I remember asking my family as a kid why Vader was in the suit, because we didn't really know. Especially with the original film, it was pretty ambiguous. For all we knew, he was like Lord Helmet, where he was normal underneath. Well, as normal as Rick Moranis could be. It wasn't until much later that, word got out that he'd been hurt in a duel. There was even people that thought he was hurt in like a spaceship crash or whatever. But, regardless, this is the original one from the Black Series. His lightsaber actually hangs onto this hook a little better than some others. Of course, it does come with a blade. I just took it off for this one to hang it. Wouldn't do too well to hang it with the saber ignited, I would not think. Pretty standard elbows, standard non-butterfly arm joints. Note the gloves, and for that matter, note the mask and the eyepieces and the chest piece. This has quite a large fluffy cape, and then there's this kind of skirt underneath. Some people talk about armor this way and that. I'll be honest, I don't really know, but I do know you can kind of position this around, especially on the later ones we'll look at. But yeah, pretty well. About as articulate as David Prowse was in the suit. Wasn't exactly, especially in A New Hope, the most mobile suit. Pretty well jointed. Pivot there. But yeah, of course, the A New Hope Vader mold was pretty early on in the series. Put his little lightsaber in his hand. That's all he comes with. But again, what else would you want a Vader to come with? Maybe some empty robes from Obi-Wan to poke at. And he actually grips it quite well. Have a moving hand here. Hinge there. This hand's kind of in the choking motion. Of course, it's posed. He doesn't come with alternative hands. Yeah, in A New Hope, we really just see him in the suit. And we don't really know why. And he's at least nominally under the command of Moff Tarkin. I was going to say Admiral, but that's kind of belying the Clone Wars. I do like the Vader Tarkin backstory from the Clone Wars. It kind of gave legitimacy to why he took orders from him. I remember as a kid, again, little kid, when I saw A New Hope, wondering if that was the Emperor, because, you know, old man. I knew he looked different, but then again, the Emperor changed between episodes 5 and 6, again, pre all the reimagined stuff, so I thought maybe it's a somewhat younger Emperor, because I couldn't quite understand why he was taking orders from him, but at least that got fleshed out. But again, we didn't really know a whole lot back then. Decent articulation. Remember, I grew up in a time too with the old Kenner figures of 5 POA, so just having rotation and bends in the elbows and knees is pretty good for me. And of course the waist moves, but again, this suit is restrictive in real life and whatnot, and we do have an overlay for this. If you don't know why Vader's in a suit, well, hello, the one person that doesn't. But yeah, this is apparently the end result of falling into, or at least nearby, a volcano. Never mind that in real life, that close to lava would turn you into charcoal very, very, very quickly. The Force, I guess. Or maybe it was cool lava. Sure, why not? Here he is, spread eagle, really showing this big old cape. I've seen some think it's too big, but there are plenty of scenes in the original trilogy with this, just especially from later ones, just really flowing behind him. I think it would have been worse if it were too short. It's a nice material, not exactly glossy, not exactly elastic, but it's got a little give to it. The under vestment, I don't know what you'd really call that. A little bit thinner. a little glossier. So they are actually different materials, or at least different cuts. The helmet in the real world was kind of inspired from a Stormtrooper helmet. The real Stormtroopers, not Star Wars. But in universe, it's the whole armor look is more inspired from Sith lore, Sith robes and what have you. Of course, the feet move. Pretty standard. And he is essentially the only survivor of the Death Star. I know some legends and even canon have some other folks getting off just in time, but in the original show, he's the only one. Even then, they knew to keep him for a sequel, even though a sequel was not at all implied or planned for in 1976 before the film came out. And then originally, the sequel was to be The Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was to be, frankly, a cheap sequel. Kind of a direct-to-video before that was really a thing. But because Star Wars, mostly because of Vader, was so successful, we ended up with Empire Strikes Back in 1980. Alrighty, so 1980, and here's the commensurate Black Series for that film. I did go ahead and install his pimpin' red blade and his saber, and the Vader costume definitely got an improvement for this film. The helmet was improved, a little more symmetrical, better paint job. The original A New Hope had kind of reddish, brownish lenses. They went more to a black color. I'm not sure if it really portrayed in the figure, but yeah, the kind of dimensions, the grill or the faceplate angles are a little different here. Just little fine details. I do, filling the two together, they are a little bit different shaped. Like this is a little bit larger. The chest box was redone for the film and for the figure. The original one had different colors and buttons and things, but this one actually had blinky lights and things put on it. His gloves were also changed for the new film, and they're changed on the figures too. More vertical lining versus horizontal, just generally speaking a different look, different gloves, but that's understandable. On the figure, the kind of bottom parts are the same legs and everything, and really there's not a lot of changes whenever you read people talking. The legs aren't really emphasized, but the costume was kind of rebuilt from the ground up, so if you spot some differences, that would explain why. And again, some say that the cape, or at least the undercloth, should be, I will say on this one, it can move around. The cape on the Empire Strikes Back, you could even put it under the armor if you wanted. On the A New Hope one, I don't believe it moves. No, it's not on mine. And it's definitely over the shoulder piece. This one, again, you can move it around and get it out of the way, or you can drape it over. Really just fixing a lot of little details, like less fingerprints on the helmet, more even paint job. And I'm speaking to the real world film, not so much the figure, although they did give a new chest control panel in there, and they did give somewhat improved articulation. That still bends that way, but now we do have limited but existing butterfly joints where you can move these back and forth, and that's actually kind of cool for lightsaber users because you can get the two hands together on the saber if you want to do that. I don't. Let's see how much the original one here can move. Not quite as much of a bend there to begin with. And you can almost reach. You could squeeze them but you'd have a lot of stress. They don't want to go on their own. That's as close as you'll get. And with this Empire Strikes Back, this is the 40th one for what it's worth, you can go way over midpoint. And I think that does, yeah, that definitely bends up more here than this guy. Although it's, I mean, it's still okay. That's about as far as I want to push it. Then again, I'm a coward when it comes to trying to overextend these things. And yeah, and it's really bumping up against the glove armor. He still has the force choke hand. Kind of makes you wonder how often he sliced through his own stuff with his lightsaber, not being able to feel stuff. At least in this one, we do see Luke getting a strike on his armor plate. It still has the same belt hook as the previous one, but for some reason the belt hook on my New Hope one works a little better. The legs are the same. See, I haven't really bent this guy. There we go, that one bends a little more. I think it will go further, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really into this. There we go. For some reason the right one always seems, or technically the left one always seems to want to go better for me on different ones of these. Has the pivot here. But, you know, we do see more Vader, and we definitely have a much more energetic fight scene with Luke, much longer duration, and that's kind of portrayed in the suit and even in the stunt sabers used, what have you. The head articulation seems a little bit better on this variant too versus this one. Yeah, that one doesn't have a lot of move to it. Again, I could force it, but this one has a lot more rotation and up down just in general, so that's good. But again, it makes sense. In A New Hope he was much stiffer. I mean, he was fighting a 70-year-old man. So that's these two. We don't really see any damage to Vader in Empire Strikes Back, but we do have that one meditation chamber scene where we see his helmet off, or at least the back part, and so we see the back of his head. Of course, this doesn't come off for this figure. Same kind of cloak and undercloak. Like I said, some say that the cloth should be in a different direction, but this one does rotate around, so if this is what they mean like under the shoulder armor, you could pretty easily fidget this under the shoulder plates, if that's what people are talking about, because they are a separate piece that lifts up. That would take a little bit of doing, but could be done. And this was actually my first Vader. I thought this was neat when it came out, because it did have a better arm articulation for the lightsaber wielding, and the earlier ones were hard and expensive to get at the time. But no TIE fighter to show for Empire Strikes Back. Vader was definitively a commander in that film. And he was also a source of much admiral promotion and effectively demotion. And while their lightsabers are definitely meant to be the same, they actually are slightly different sizes. So technically a new mold. Not a big difference. The lightsabers did change a little bit between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I mean, you can tell again, it's clearly meant to be the same saber in both this miniature 112 form and whatnot. Yeah, this one's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, what have you. They are slightly different. As for the figures, like we've talked about, most of the differences in the arm, also the helmet paint, And the control box legs seem identical. What do you think? And of course, the reason I've waited to do this video for so long, the Return of the Jedi, or rather, Revenge of the Jedi, Vader. 1983. And I can recognize that Empire is probably the superior film. But Return of the Jedi was always my favorite. And that's probably why I really wanted to get this one. Just for fun, I put Luke's lightsaber in his other hand because there's a scene in the film where he's holding it, which actually leads to a deleted scene that where he gets it. So this figure, it's a new, or at least partially new mold, new tooling, and one of the most noticeable changes is right here with the chain around his neck. That was something pretty identifiable for Return of the Jedi. And the armor is pretty well the same. It should have basically the same control box and gloves because they used essentially the same outfit for this one as they did Empire Strikes Back. They just revised it a bit. Saber here. Like I said, I just put Luke's in his hand for fun. The same choky hand. He has the double joints, and this one actually seems to have a somewhat improved movement there to the arms too. Kind of wondering if they redid that just a little bit. The legs have a little more rotation up here as well. A little looser, more flippy. But I believe they're still the same legs. And same basic costume. So why did I want this? Well, those who follow know this one has some interesting features that we just don't see in the other figures. Aside from Duel's End a little bit, because in that film, well, Vader eventually gets fucked up. And the first thing that happened is, Luke kind of pays in kind by lobbing off his hand. So that unpegs quite easily. Hand here. And I was actually afraid they were going to do kind of what NECA did with the City Hunter Predator, where they just pull it off and it just plugged in and you had a peg or a hole. But no, they actually didn't. And I'm kind of happy about that. They actually give you a stump to plug in its place. Like so. And it has the bits of electronica sticking out when Luke chopped it off. Smoke not included though. And it actually gives another point of rotation effectively at his arm here. Not, it's just kind of a side effect, but kind of nice, I suppose. And it stays on quite well. I was actually kind of worried it might fall off, or I didn't know how they were doing it. But no, they did it well. And this is actually how he comes in the package. So this would be him, after the duel. And the other aspect is the helmet and the new head underneath. And here again, they could have cheapened out and just had it a single piece helmet. Minifigures in the past had. But no, it's actually two pieces, just like it comes off in the film. The kind of cowl part, the helmet, Lord helmet part itself. And you could even reenact the scene from Empire Strikes Back with, Empire Strikes Back, which is like the back of his head showing and all the scarring. And from there, you can of course pull off the front face piece, leaving just this neck collar piece, which is actually separate from the head, so this does all move around separately. It's a flexible piece in the middle, which is actually good because it lets everything kind of line up better, and again, it matches the film anyway. And even though there's not much kind of detail inside the helmet, just helmet, what do you want? For this, beyond that, we have quite a bit of stuff up here on the sides, and then there's even some detailing on the inside of the mask if you want to do the reveal scene, what have you. And these actually plug together. There's actually a small groove in the bottom of this that corresponds with this here, and in the front, these tusks, as I've seen them called, kind of go through and plug in to make that. And while this part doesn't plug in anywhere on him, these two actually plug in together quite nicely. And make a single piece. Now I will say, you know, it's going to be a little looser than the others because you have two pieces plus the head. So if you don't want an unmasked Vader, then this may not be the one you want to go for because it is a little loose. I mean, for display it's fine, but I mean, you can knock them off. They're not super on there, but they're fine for what they are. But if you want the removable thing plus the arm stump, the hand stump, I believe this is the first time we've had stumpy hand. We've had face before, but it was the old sculpt from really early on in the series, and I never had that one. But removable helmet Vader is useful for a lot of things, frankly. And on both things, the arm and the helmet, while nothing's perfect in this world, that's just the way of things, they did a better job than I expected. Effort was put in, so maybe someone at Hasbro also really likes Return of the Jedi like I do. But what do you think? And here they are, laid together. Certainly the Return of the Jedi comes with the most accessories. I mean, these others just come with the saber. Again, I'm not sure what else they really could have come with, but yeah, alternative hand, two-piece removable helmet, plus the saber. Pretty neat. Certainly the most flexible, and ostensibly the newest body versus the oldest, or one of the oldest. So the only one I really don't have is the Duels in one from Kenobi. If I found it in store for a regular price, I might, but it's just the same Vader over and over, just different mask and everything, beat up a bit. Neat concept. And I guess I should admit one thing. This is the Empire Strikes Back 40th. This is the Return of the Jedi 40th. This is not the New Hope 40th, as some of you guessed. This is actually the one from Obi-Wan, but it's basically just a repack and maybe slight rework of the A New Hope Vader, hence the old style joints. But it works for Vader, not exactly the most flexible figure. And unfortunately, for me, a lot of the differences are going to be in the paint. Although a few things, like the boxes, are a little different. And it's kind of interesting that there are two slightly different lightsaber molds. The lightsaber between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi changed very little. Most of your changes are going to be between the first two films. And even then, stunt sabers, and for that matter, stunt uniforms, suits are different too. So you can really get into it if you want to. But I thought it'd be nice to have the removable helmet one. And yeah, this is all actual detailing. The scarring is actually raised and everything, not paint only. Same basic cape. So, to my story, my adventure about getting this guy. Then we'll wrap things up. Over the years, I've had very little trouble getting 99% of the Black Series, especially in 2022, 2023, when supply seems to be quite good and demand maybe is flattening out or even going down. And this even applies to Amazon. Obviously, I'm not driving, and most of my local stores, the few times I've been into Target and stuff, they don't really carry these, and I wouldn't know where else to go. So just order them on Amazon or whatnot, a few other places. But this one was a chore, and it did kind of annoy me. I ordered it pre-order on Amazon in September, I believe, and there were showing only a few left on the pre-order. That's fine. With ETA, I believe it was early October. In fact, I ordered it at the same time I ordered the 40th anniversary Luke. And I got him in actually early. I think he was due in on October 12, and I got him like on October 5. Cool. I noticed my Vader, though, went from pre-order to kind of a back order status, showing delivery between October 17 and November 17. I normally don't do pre-orders or back orders for this very reason. But I already put the order in. And one reason was I had Amazon credit, the Amazon points. So essentially it was $0. So why not? I waited. October 17, nothing. And a lot of places, Entertainment Earth comes to mind, got this in stock, and I passed. Well, I've already got it on order. Everything I've ordered from Amazon's always come in. So I waited all the way to November 17. And that day it said, out for delivery today. And then kept getting pushed back. 6 p.m., 8 p.m., 10 p.m. Now, to be fair, Amazon delivery around here can be quite late in the date. Although, I don't think it's ever been 10 p.m. before. Well, 10 p.m. rolls around that day, November 17. And then it says, your order wasn't delivered, basically. And then it says your order wasn't even shipped. Okay. And then it says it'll update you when a new shipping thing. I was like, okay, great. It's going to get on extended pre-order. Then I went to check it that Sunday, so the 19th, and it wasn't even in my order history. They automatically canceled my order. Thanks. The problem is by November 20th, all the other places were sold out. And I'm not even sure they're going to refund me my Amazon reward points. I don't know. That's the whole thing. So, because I missed everyone else having these in stock, and I looked everywhere, Amazon doesn't have any at all. It says no featured listings. And none of the online stores have them. None of my local Targets have them. So, to eBay I went. But it at least came in. Actually, it came in a day early from eBay. So I did have to pay a little bit of a premium. Not much, but like $10 more maybe. $8 more. Kind of annoyed me though. This is what I get for being patient. I should have just immediately canceled the order when they switched it around and took me off pre-order, and things went weird. Now, that was bought directly from Amazon. That wasn't like a third-party seller. I could understand that. I've had that happen a time or two. But this was from Amazon. So, I think in future, I'm only going to order if something is in stock. I'm not going to do pre-orders. Again, I didn't do them much in the first place. But that was a little hinky. But it does show that this guy is selling quite well. Everyone's sold out, so presumably they'll do another production run. But with the holidays coming up, who knows? And the Luke that kind of corresponds to this figure is quite neat too. Not quite as loaded down with features, but yeah, it's nice to have a Return of the Jedi kind of throne room fight scene Luke. And those, along with maybe the R2-D2, were the interesting ones out of this wave. Plus, of course, the Commando, the Rebel Commando that I did a video on months ago. Everything else is just kind of the same stuff over and over, but that's okay. There's a few things kind of wish they had done, but at least I have this, and I'm quite well content. Unless I do find a dual Zen Vader, in store for the regular price. I kind of glanced on eBay and Amazon, and people are asking $40-50, and nope. But if I find one on clearance or whatnot for around $20, I might pick it up. But my interest is about that level, if that makes sense. So what do you think? Which one's your favorite? What do you think? Sorry this wasn't really a deep dive into the lore, the history of Vader. For one, I expect all of you know it. For another, I don't like how kind of modern Vader lore has kind of weakened him. I don't mean that. I don't know. Talking about him being in the suit that's vastly uncomfortable and all these things that actively do, keeping him awake. I mean, come on. Why would he do that? I get the whole rage and anger thing, but there's a limit. I mean, you don't see Palpatine, like, sleeping on a bed of nails, do you? So, I guess I'm just old school in that way. But that's alright. Well, let's wrap this up. Alrighty, so we've kind of covered these for what it's worth. As I said at the beginning, what's your favorite? Both in terms of the figures themselves and just the overall look. Some people look at Vader and don't really see any changes. And others point out a couple of dozen changes. It really just kind of gets to how specific, how detailed you want to get to his costume, his outfit, his uniform. It's up to you. I'm kind of in the middle, to be honest. I recognize that there were differences, but a lot of them were real-world production changes, not really in-universe changes. I don't think he was really meant to look all that different. It was just, yeah. But then again, since the original trilogy spans over 4 years, you would expect some changes to happen, since it's kind of his daily wear. It's kind of a shame we didn't really see the TIE Fighter, the X1, at least in film, after A New Hope. But I have to admit, it's not my favorite TIE Fighter. I really like a lot of the other designs more, but that's okay. I don't know, just thought we would revisit the Dark Lord of the Sith again, since this one finally came in. Not exactly happy with Amazon over that still. Oh well, though. So, let me know what you think, and we'll see what we do next. I really don't know myself. This was very impromptu. As always, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And hey, if you'd like to help out, you can always check out the Mishaco Patreon. And we've been doing live streams over on the main Mishaco channel, too. With that, this is Misha, and catch you very soon next time.